Liam and Chloe wanted a new life, a quiet one, far from the chaos and cost of the city. They'd spent years in cramped apartments, lulled to sleep by sirens and woken by the clatter of neighbors above. The city had worn them down, and the idea of a slower pace of breathing room and open skies had become irresistible. They found Still Creek on an old map, a town with one main street, a few faded shops, and people who moved as if time barely mattered. It seemed untouched by the rush of the outside world, a place where the days stretched long and quiet. When they arrived, the townsfolk stared. Strangers were rare here. Every face seemed to hold a story, and every glance lingered a little too long, as if measuring the newcomers against some unspoken standard. The air was thick with pine and damp earth, exactly the peace they craved, or so they thought. The silence was almost heavy, broken only by the distant call of a crow or the wind through the trees. At the diner, an old woman served them coffee, her eyes kind but wary. The place felt frozen in time, with cracked vinyl booths and a jukebox that hadn't played in years. She asked, "What brings you here?" Liam replied, "We're looking for a house, something old, with character." Chloe smiled, trying to put the woman at ease, but the tension in the air was unmistakable. Her smile faded. "There's only one place for sale, and you don't want it." Her voice was low, almost a whisper, as if afraid someone else might overhear. Chloe pressed, "Why not?" The woman shook her head. "Some places hold on to things, bad things." Her words hung in the air, heavy with warning. She wouldn't say more, just refilled their coffee and left them with a chill of unease. The clink of the coffee pot was the only sound as she walked away. Liam and Chloe exchanged a look. Surely, it was just small-town superstition. They tried to laugh it off, but the unease lingered between them. In the city, people exaggerated to make a sale or scare off buyers. Here, though, the warning felt personal, as if the town itself was trying to keep them away. But here, the warning felt different, heavier. It was as if the walls themselves remembered things best left forgotten. Still, the promise of a new beginning was too tempting to ignore. They told themselves it was just nerves, the uncertainty of change. They finished their coffee, curiosity outweighing caution. As they stepped out into the cool night, the quiet of Still Creek pressed in, and the adventure they'd hoped for suddenly felt much more real. Undeterred by the warnings and the stories they'd heard, Liam and Chloe followed the winding directions to Hemlock Hill, their curiosity outweighing their nerves. The air was thick with anticipation as they made their way up the lonely road, the world around them growing quieter with every step. The road twisted through thick, ancient trees, their branches arching overhead like skeletal fingers. Sunlight barely broke through the dense canopy, casting shifting shadows that danced across the cracked pavement. At the top of the hill stood a Victorian mansion, its paint peeling in long strips, windows boarded and dark, a crooked iron gate barely standing guard, and a yard choked with wild, tangled weeds. The house seemed to brood beneath the stormy sky, as if it remembered every secret ever whispered within its walls. Chloe stared in awe, her voice barely above a whisper. "Wow, it's big, and kind of beautiful in a strange way." Liam grinned, his eyes lighting up with excitement. He saw potential where others saw only decay. "It just needs some love," he said, imagining the possibilities hidden beneath the grime and neglect. Together they pushed open the creaking iron gate, its hinges shrieking in protest. A sudden cold wind swept around them, carrying the scent of damp earth and old secrets, as if the house itself was exhaling after years of silence. As they approached the porch, the neighbor, an old man with wary eyes, paused his yard work and called out, "You're not thinking of buying that place, are you? No one's lived there for 50 years. The last family? They just disappeared. "The house took them," he warned, his voice trembling as if he still remembered the day it happened. Liam and Chloe exchanged uneasy glances, the weight of the neighbor's words settling over them. Still, their determination held firm, and they pressed on, hearts pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. The house loomed above them, silent and watchful, its windows like dark eyes following their every move. To Liam and Chloe, it was more than just a house. It was a project, a dream, a future they could build together from the ruins. But to the townspeople watching from afar, it was a warning, a place best left alone, haunted by memories and things unseen. The gate groaned shut behind them, echoing through the empty yard like a final warning. The house seemed to breathe in the dim light, its shadows shifting as if alive, waiting for what would come next. They stepped onto the creaky porch, hearts pounding with hope, excitement, and a hint of dread for what they might find inside. The old key turned in the rusty lock with a reluctant click, the sound echoing in the stillness. They crossed the threshold, stepping into the shadowy interior, unaware of the mysteries and dangers that waited inside. The heavy door closed behind them with a deep, final thud, sealing their fate as the house welcomed its new guests. Liam laughed off the warnings. "We're not scared of ghost stories," he called to the neighbor. The price was impossibly low. They bought the house without hesitation. Moving day was filled with excitement, echoes in empty rooms, dust motes in sunlight, dreams of yellow walls and cozy fires. Chloe marveled, "I can't believe this is ours." "Our dream," Liam said, already planning renovations. They camped on an air mattress in the master bedroom, the house creaking around them as night fell. The woods outside pressed close, shadows stretching across the floor. They were tired but exhilarated, certain they could turn this place into a home. The past was just a story, the future was theirs to build. As darkness settled, the house seemed to settle too, watchful, waiting. They drifted to sleep, unaware of the secrets in the walls. The silence was deep, but not empty. Somewhere, something listened. Their new life had begun, and the house was ready. That night, a violent storm struck. Wind howled, rain battered the roof, and thunder shook the house. The power failed, plunging them into darkness. Lightning flashed, casting monstrous shadows on the walls. Chloe whispered, "I'm a little scared." Liam tried to reassure her, but the fear was real. Then came the whispers, soft, sibilant, everywhere at once. Not the wind, not the house settling, voices. Liam sat up, flashlight in hand, but the beam revealed only empty corners and peeling wallpaper. The whispers grew, a chorus of sadness and pain. Chloe clung to Liam, both straining to understand. The voices were urgent, pleading, but the words were lost. The storm raged outside, but inside, something else was stirring. The house groaned, alive with secrets. The whispers didn't stop, even as the storm faded. They lay awake, hearts pounding, listening to the voices trapped in the walls. Morning felt impossibly far away. The house had welcomed them, and it was not alone. Daylight brought relief, but the memory of whispers lingered. They laughed it off, just an old house, just a storm. Renovations began, but the house resisted. Tools moved on their own. Paintbrushes dripped black paint, doors slammed with no wind. Chloe found plates shattered on the kitchen floor, no explanation. The house wasn't just creaking, it was playing tricks. At night, banging echoed from the kitchen. Cabinet doors slamming, then silence when they entered. They tried to rationalize, but doubt crept in. The sense of being watched never left. Each day brought new disturbances, meaner, more deliberate. The house was not just haunted, it was hostile. Sleep became restless, filled with uneasy dreams. The line between reality and nightmare blurred. They began to fear the house and what it wanted. The laughter faded, replaced by dread. The house was awake, and it was watching. The whispers became nightly, echoing through the halls with a chilling persistence. But then something even more disturbing appeared. While scraping away the faded wallpaper, Chloe's hand froze. Beneath the layers, she uncovered words deeply scratched into the plaster. "Help us." The letters were jagged, desperate, as if carved in a frantic rush. Liam reached out, tracing the letters with trembling fingers, his face drained of color. The room seemed to grow colder as he read the message, the silence pressing in around them. More messages surfaced. "Can't get out. It keeps us here." Hidden beneath layers of wallpaper and even under the floorboards, as if the house itself was trying to keep its secrets buried. Each message was more desperate than the last, a silent scream from the past echoing through the decaying walls, begging for release. The house was telling its story, one of captivity, fear, and a darkness that refused to fade. Every creak and groan seemed to carry the weight of those trapped souls. In the tower room, Liam found a frantic scrawl. "They are gone, sealed in the walls. The house did it. The house is alive. It wants us too. Run!" The words seemed to pulse with terror, as if warning them directly. The warnings from the townspeople, once dismissed as superstition, now felt chillingly real, their fearful glances and hushed voices echoing in Chloe and Liam's minds. Liam and Chloe realized with dawning horror that they weren't just living in a haunted house. They were inside something alive, something that watched and waited. The house was a predator, and they were its prey, caught in a web of fear and secrets. Every message was a piece of a puzzle they didn't want to solve, each clue drawing them deeper into the house's twisted history. The air grew colder, their breath visible in the gloom, and the whispers became more insistent, swirling around them like a living thing. The house's hunger was palpable, a force pressing in from every shadowy corner, making escape feel impossible. Escape felt urgent, but the walls seemed to close in, the very architecture shifting to trap them inside its ancient grip. The past was bleeding into the present. Ghostly figures seemed to flicker at the edge of vision. They were not alone. The house was watching, waiting, and it was hungry for more than just memories. Panic set in. They needed answers. At the town's dusty library, the elderly librarian led them to old newspapers. The Peterson family, last to live in the house, had vanished without a trace. Headlines told of a happy family, 2 children, plans to restore the mansion. Weeks later, no trace of missing family. Police baffled. The investigator described the house as if it swallowed them. Belongings left behind, dinner uneaten, family gone. He'd heard whispers in the walls, but no one believed him. The house was a mystery, a wound in the town's history. Liam and Chloe saw themselves in the Peterson story. The pattern was clear: hopeful newcomers, then disappearance. The librarian's eyes were full of pity as they left. The truth was worse than any ghost story. The house didn't just haunt, it consumed, and it was their turn. They returned at sunset, determined to leave. The house loomed, darker than ever. Inside, the air was thick with malevolence. The whispers were now voices, crying, pleading, "Get out!" They packed in a frenzy, but as they reached the door it slammed shut, immovable. Windows sealed with heavy shutters, plunging the house into darkness. Panic surged as the house groaned, alive and angry. A scraping sound began, fingernails on plaster coming from inside the walls. The whispers turned to shrieks, echoing through every room. Liam and Chloe huddled together, trapped. The house was no longer hiding its hunger. The walls pulsed with life, the past and present merging. Escape was impossible. The house had claimed them. The screams of the dead filled the air. The darkness pressed in, suffocating. They realized too late, the house never let anyone go. And now, it was their prison. Every exit was sealed. The house was a living prison. The screams and scratching grew louder, closer. They barricaded themselves in the master bedroom, but the walls began to crack and bulge. A black, tar-like substance oozed from the fissures, pulsing with hunger. The whispers became a deafening roar, pulling the air from their lungs. The wall peeled back like a grotesque flower, revealing darkness within. Liam and Chloe clung to each other, powerless. The house was not haunted by ghosts, it was the ghost. The darkness crept toward them, alive and ancient. They realized escape was never possible. The house fed on hope, on fear, on life. The past victims were not gone, they were part of the house. The black ooze reached for them, cold and relentless. The house was hungry, and it was feeding. Their screams joined the chorus in the walls. The blackness vanished. The room was still, unchanged. Liam and Chloe stood dazed, feeling hollow. The urge to escape was gone, replaced by numb acceptance. They approached the antique mirror. Their reflections stared back, vacant, unmoving. Liam raised his hand. His reflection did not. Chloe stepped aside. Her reflection stayed put. Their bodies moved, but their images were trapped, silent, screaming portraits. A whisper escaped their lips. "We're home." They were part of the house now, just like the Petersons. The house had claimed them, body and soul. In the mirror, their reflections began to scream. The house was satisfied, for now. Still Creek would wait for the next dreamers, and the house on Hemlock Hill would be waiting, hungry as ever.